Act as if you are the best, not because you have already proven everything to the world, but because the moment you start shrinking yourself, you begin betraying your own potential. The truth most people never fully confront is simple. You are not less than anyone. Not in intelligence, not in worth, not in the ability to build something extraordinary with your life. Yet somewhere along the way, comparison, doubt, criticism, and past mistakes slowly trained you to live beneath your own power. You learned to question yourself before taking action. You learned to measure your value through the opinions of people who cannot see your future. And every time you accepted that smaller version of yourself, you stepped further away from the person you were meant to become. Today, that pattern ends. Confidence is not a gift that some people receive and others do not. It is a decision repeated every single day. The way you show up shapes how the world responds to you. And the identity you choose to live from will determine the life you build. Strength is not something you stumble into by accident. It is something you build deliberately, decision by decision, habit by habit, day by day. Most people spend their lives waiting for strength the way others wait for luck. They believe one day they will wake up suddenly confident, suddenly disciplined, suddenly ready to take control of their lives. But strength does not arrive like a miracle. It appears like a structure that is built slowly and intentionally. The version of you that exists tomorrow is shaped by the choices you make today, not by the wishes you repeat in your mind. You cannot act like the best while thinking like the weakest version of yourself. If your identity is still tied to old failures, past embarrassment, criticism from others, or labels you accepted years ago, then every step forward will feel heavy. Your mind will keep pulling you back toward the familiar version of yourself that feels safe but small. This is why real transformation never begins with results. It begins with identity. Outcomes do not create identity. Identity creates outcomes. A strong identity produces strong actions. Strong actions produce strong results. When your identity is fragile, every challenge shakes you. When your identity is solid, challenges become part of your growth. The first place where identity begins to rebuild is the beginning of your day. Your mornings are the command center of your life. Before the world begins making demands on your attention, before responsibilities and noise fill your mind, you have a small window where your mind is still yours. What you do during this time quietly sets the tone for every decision that follows. The strongest individuals do not negotiate with their mornings. They claim them. They protect them. They use them to place themselves into leadership over their own mind. When you wake up and immediately reach for your phone, you hand control of your attention to the outside world before you have even taken control of yourself. But when you begin your day intentionally, even with something simple, your mind shifts into a different state. 1 hour without digital noise allows your thoughts to stabilize. One intentional action that builds momentum, such as reading something meaningful, writing down your goals, or moving your body, reminds your nervous system that you are someone who takes action rather than someone who reacts. Your morning also becomes a ritual of identity. The words you speak to yourself shape the direction of your thoughts. When your mind is filled with doubt, hesitation, or criticism, those thoughts become the script your behavior follows. But when you anchor your mind with deliberate identity statements, you interrupt the old patterns that used to control you. Simple declarations such as, "I show up," "I am capable," "I lead my life" are not empty phrases. They are psychological signals. They remind your mind who is in charge. Over time, these statements reshape how you see yourself. And the way you see yourself determines how you act. However, rituals alone are not enough. Building the strongest version of yourself requires rewriting the internal story you carry about who you are. Many people unknowingly repeat a narrative inside their mind that keeps them small. They tell themselves they are not disciplined enough, not talented enough, not confident enough, or not ready yet. Every time this internal story repeats, it reinforces the identity that created your current limitations. If you want to grow into someone stronger, you must learn to challenge those thoughts instead of accepting them automatically. When your mind says you cannot handle something, pause and question it. When it reminds you of past mistakes, respond with your present intention. When it tries to convince you that you are not ready, remind yourself that readiness is built through action, not waiting. This is not self-deception. It is mental discipline. It is the deliberate practice of directing your mind instead of allowing your mind to direct you. Standards play a critical role in this transformation. Your standards define what you tolerate from yourself and what you refuse to accept. They determine how you speak to yourself, how you manage your attention, how you treat your body, and how you handle your commitments. If your standards are low, your actions will quietly drift downward. If your standards are high, your decisions automatically begin rising to meet them. A strong identity refuses to shrink to accommodate weak habits. It replaces those habits with behaviors that align with the future you are building. It is important to understand that strength is not intensity. Anyone can feel motivated for a few days. Anyone can push themselves when excitement is high. But real strength is consistency. It is the ability to act on your standards even when motivation disappears. It is the quiet discipline of doing the work on days when progress feels slow and invisible. Consistency may not look dramatic in the moment, but over time it builds a foundation that cannot be shaken. Identity-based habits are powerful because they last longer than emotions. Feelings change from day to day. Motivation rises and falls, but identity remains stable. When you begin asking yourself a different question each day, your behavior changes. Instead of asking what you feel like doing, ask what action aligns with the person you are becoming. This single shift moves your focus away from temporary emotion and toward long-term identity. Building the strongest version of yourself also requires honesty. You must be willing to see where you have been undisciplined, where you have made excuses, and where comfort has repeatedly defeated growth. This honesty is not meant to shame you. It is meant to wake you up. Self-awareness allows correction. Correction builds trust with yourself, and self-trust becomes the foundation of inner strength. The moment you decide to lead your mind instead of following it, your life begins to shift. Your thoughts change first. Then your posture changes. Then your decisions change. Eventually, the world notices the difference in the way you speak, move, and carry yourself. Strength becomes visible because it was first built internally. You are not simply building habits. You are building a mindset, a character, and an identity strong enough to carry the future you want to create. A strong identity cannot grow inside a noisy mind. Every day, your mind wakes up with the potential to think clearly, create ideas, and move toward the life you want to build. Yet most people place their minds immediately into environments filled with noise, endless scrolling, constant comparison, opinions from strangers, and information that has nothing to do with their future. Before the day even truly begins, their confidence has already taken a hit. Noise does not simply distract you. Noise reshapes you. It pulls your attention away from the voice that matters most, your own. Many people believe their biggest struggle is a lack of discipline or a lack of clarity. But the deeper problem is that their minds are overcrowded. When your mind is filled with hundreds of voices, it becomes impossible to hear your own direction. Your attention becomes fragmented. Your energy becomes scattered, and your identity slowly weakens. You cannot build a powerful life while your mind is constantly reacting to every signal around you. Your attention is the most valuable currency you possess. Where your attention goes, your thoughts grow. Where your thoughts grow, your identity forms. And where your identity forms, your future follows. This means every piece of information you allow into your mind either strengthens the person you are becoming or weakens it. The wrong input slowly erodes confidence. The right input strengthens belief and focus. Protecting your mind is not an optional practice. It is survival in a world that constantly competes for your attention. One of the first steps to reclaiming control is learning how to create intentional silence. The human brain was not designed to process thousands of pieces of information before breakfast. When your mind is overloaded with stimulation, it cannot think deeply. It can only react. This is why periods of uninterrupted focus are so powerful. A simple 90-minute focus block can begin changing how your mind operates. During this time, every notification is turned off. Every distraction is removed. And your full attention is directed towards something meaningful. In that space, you stop reacting and begin creating. Silence also allows you to reconnect with your own thinking. When the noise fades, your mind begins to organize itself again. Ideas appear more clearly. Decisions become easier. Confidence begins to rebuild because you are no longer constantly comparing your life to the lives of others. Instead, you begin paying attention to your own direction. Clarity grows in quiet environments. Confusion grows in chaotic ones. Another powerful practice is deciding intentionally what voices are allowed into your mind. Most people allow information into their heads randomly, but strong individuals treat their attention like a guarded space. Imagine creating a mental whitelist and blacklist. The whitelist includes the voices that strengthen your identity, the mentors you learn from, the ideas that push you to grow, and the information that expands your thinking. These sources feed your development and remind you who you are becoming. The blacklist contains the sources that weaken your focus, content that triggers comparison, voices that constantly criticize, conversations that drain your energy, and platforms that keep your mind scattered. When you begin filtering what enters your mind, you begin shaping your identity with intention. Your attention stops being a doorway that anyone can walk through. It becomes a fortress you protect carefully. There is another form of noise that is even more dangerous than the noise of the outside world. It is the noise inside your own head. Even when the phone is turned off and the room is quiet, your mind can still replay old doubts and negative beliefs. Thoughts that say you are not ready, not capable, or not good enough. These internal voices often come from past experiences, criticism, or moments where you doubted yourself. If left untrained, they continue repeating themselves until they shape your behavior. Guarding your mind means learning to speak to yourself with leadership instead of fear. When doubt appears, do not allow it to dominate your thinking. Acknowledge the thought, then replace it with a deliberate direction. Remind yourself that your mind is your territory, and you decide what grows inside it. Over time, this mental discipline strengthens your internal voice and weakens the power of negative self-talk. Solitude becomes an important part of this process. Many people fear being alone with their thoughts because silence reveals what they have been avoiding. But solitude is not isolation. It is leverage. It is where the strongest ideas develop, where clarity returns, and where identity strengthens. When you sit with yourself without distraction, you remember who you are and where you are going. As your mind becomes quieter, something powerful begins to happen. The world outside you starts losing its ability to control your emotions. Criticism becomes less intimidating. Comparison becomes less relevant. Random opinions stop shaping your decisions. You stop reacting impulsively and begin responding deliberately. Instead of absorbing everything around you, you choose what deserves your attention. Ask yourself a question most people avoid. What voices have I allowed into my mind that do not belong there? What information am I consuming that weakens my focus? What distractions have I normalized that are slowly stealing my potential? These questions are not meant to create guilt. They are meant to wake you up to the power of your attention. Once you understand that your attention builds your identity and your identity builds your future, everything changes. Protecting your mind becomes a priority instead of an afterthought. Silence becomes valuable instead of uncomfortable. And focus becomes your greatest advantage in a world that constantly tries to scatter your energy. A disciplined mind does not fear the noise of the world because it has learned how to guard the space where identity is built. Believing in your future before anyone else does is one of the most defining abilities a person can develop. There will be moments in your life when no one sees what you see. No one understands the direction you are trying to move toward. No one applauds the effort you are putting in. In those quiet seasons, many people begin to doubt themselves. They interpret the absence of recognition as proof that their path is wrong. But the truth is that every meaningful vision begins in isolation. Before the world believes in you, you must first believe in yourself. Self-belief is not a temporary emotion that appears when things are going well. It is a discipline that must be practiced every day. Most people misunderstand confidence because they assume it comes after success. They believe once they achieve something impressive, they will finally feel certain about themselves. In reality, the process works in the opposite direction. Belief comes first. Action follows belief. And success eventually grows from repeated action. Waiting for the world to validate you before believing in yourself is like waiting for a harvest before planting the seed. Many people have experienced being underestimated. They have worked hard while others ignored their effort. They have shared ideas that were dismissed or overlooked. They have moved forward while people around them questioned their ability. These experiences can easily create a sense of invisibility. You begin to wonder if your effort matters or if your vision is unrealistic. But recognition has never been the true measure of your worth. Your worth is defined by your commitment, your resilience, and your willingness to continue building even when no one is watching. One powerful way to strengthen belief in yourself is through evidence. Confidence grows when your mind begins to trust your actions. Every day, you have an opportunity to collect small pieces of proof that you are moving forward. A single completed task, a difficult conversation handled with courage, or a step taken toward a goal becomes evidence that you are someone who acts. These small victories may seem insignificant in the moment, but they accumulate inside your mind. Over time, your brain begins to see a pattern. You are not someone who only talks about change. You are someone who follows through. Another method for strengthening belief is reminding yourself why your future matters. Many people pursue goals without clearly understanding their deeper reasons. When difficulty appears, they quickly lose direction because the purpose behind their effort was never fully defined. Take time to reflect on the reasons you must succeed. Not to impress anyone else, not to compete with others, but to honor the life you want to build. Your reasons may include freedom, growth, contribution, or the desire to become the strongest version of yourself. When your purpose becomes clear, doubt loses some of its power. Visualization can also reinforce belief. Spend a few moments each day imagining the person you are becoming. Do not treat it as fantasy. Treat it as rehearsal. Picture the way you stand, the way you speak, the way you approach challenges with calm focus. Imagine the discipline you maintain, the obstacles you overcome, and the character you develop along the way. Your mind responds strongly to repeated images. When you regularly visualize your future self, your brain begins to treat that identity as something real and attainable. However, the greatest challenge to belief often comes from your own internal dialogue. The mind has a tendency to repeat familiar thoughts, especially the ones connected to past failure. When your mind whispers that you are not ready or that you might fail again, you must respond deliberately. Do not allow those thoughts to pass unchallenged. Replace them with a direction that reflects who you are becoming. When your mind says this is impossible, remind yourself that every achievement begins as something unfamiliar. When your mind says you are not prepared, remind yourself that preparation grows through action. There will be days when belief feels fragile. Progress may appear slow. Results may remain invisible. In those moments, it is easy to think that quitting would be easier than continuing. But this is precisely the moment when belief becomes most important. The strongest individuals do not wait for perfect certainty before moving forward. They continue taking action even while uncertainty exists. Their belief is not loud or dramatic. It is quiet, steady, and persistent. The world rarely supports a vision in its early stages. People often need to see evidence before they offer encouragement. That is simply human nature. But if you depend entirely on external support, your progress will always remain fragile. True belief must come from within. It must be built from your own commitment to the person you are becoming. Every day you choose to act in alignment with that future. Your belief strengthens a little more. Eventually, the pattern begins to change. The actions you repeat become habits. The habits reinforce your identity. And the identity begins producing results that others can finally see. When that happens, people may suddenly appear supportive or impressed. But by that point, their approval no longer determines your direction. You have already proven to yourself that your belief was justified. The most important supporter of your future must always be you. When you wake up, remind yourself that you are responsible for protecting the vision you carry. When doubt appears, answer it with action. When progress feels slow, remember that belief is built through persistence. The future belongs to those who trust their path long enough to walk it. And the moment you truly believe in your own potential is the moment you begin shaping a life that others once thought impossible. The way you show up in the world sends a message long before you say a single word. Most people underestimate how strongly their presence influences the way others respond to them. They walk into rooms with hesitation, their shoulders slightly lowered, their voice uncertain, their energy quiet, as if they are asking for permission to exist. When you present yourself this way, the world reflects that uncertainty back to you. People overlook you, interrupt you, or assume you have little to offer, not because you lack ability, but because your presence signals doubt before your actions have a chance to speak. Showing up with the energy of the best is not arrogance. It is alignment. It is the decision to act from the version of yourself you are becoming instead of the fears that used to control you. Confidence does not magically appear after success. It grows through the repeated act of carrying yourself like someone who belongs where you stand. When you begin behaving from that identity, your mind slowly adjusts to the new standard you are setting. Your body plays a powerful role in shaping your internal state. The way you stand, the way you breathe, the way you move, all send signals to your nervous system. When your posture collapses, your mind often follows with uncertainty. When you stand tall, open your chest and lift your head slightly. Your body communicates stability and control. Even a few minutes of intentional posture can shift your mental state. Your brain interprets these signals as readiness. Instead of shrinking, you begin expanding into the space around you. Movement also communicates identity. People who feel uncertain tend to move quickly or nervously. Their gestures are scattered, their steps rushed, their attention constantly shifting. But someone who carries strong presence moves differently. Their movements are calm, deliberate, and controlled. They do not rush their actions because they are not trying to escape attention. They accept the space they occupy and use it with intention. This quiet control naturally draws respect from others. Another important element of presence is initiative. Many people wait to be acknowledged before they contribute. They wait to be asked before speaking. They wait for validation before offering value. But leaders do not wait for permission to participate. They create momentum by acting first. They greet others first, ask thoughtful questions first, and share ideas without hesitation. This behavior signals confidence and responsibility. When you consistently take initiative, the environment around you begins to adjust to your energy. Your voice is another reflection of your identity. Speech that is rushed or uncertain often communicates hesitation, even when the message itself is valuable. Speaking with clarity and calm pacing allows your words to carry greater weight. When you slow down slightly, pronounce your words clearly, and pause between thoughts, people naturally pay more attention. Authority in communication is rarely about volume. It is about control and intention. Energy is contagious in every environment. The emotional state you carry into a room influences the atmosphere around you. If you enter with anxiety and self-doubt, that tension quietly spreads. But when you enter with calm focus and grounded confidence, others begin responding to that stability. This does not require forcing enthusiasm or pretending to be someone you are not. Authentic presence comes from internal alignment. When your thoughts, posture, and behavior reflect the same identity, your energy becomes consistent. Many people hold themselves back because they fear judgment. They imagine others constantly analyzing their behavior and waiting for mistakes. In reality, most people are far more focused on their own insecurities than on evaluating yours. When you release the fear of being perfectly approved by everyone, you regain freedom in how you express yourself. Your responsibility is not to satisfy every opinion. Your responsibility is to represent the standards you have chosen for your life. Consistency is what transforms presence into identity. Acting confident once does not create lasting change. But when you repeatedly show up with intentional posture, controlled movement, and proactive behavior, these actions begin to feel natural. Your nervous system adapts to the new pattern. What once required effort becomes your baseline way of operating. Your external presence must also match your internal dialogue. If your mind constantly repeats that you do not belong, your body will eventually mirror that belief. But when your internal voice reinforces the identity you are building, your behavior follows naturally. Remind yourself regularly that you are someone who contributes, someone who leads, someone who brings value wherever you go. This internal clarity strengthens the energy you project outward. Showing up with the energy of the best does not mean believing you are superior to everyone else. It means recognizing that you have the right to fully occupy the space of your own life. When your presence becomes steady and intentional, people feel it before they analyze it. They notice the calm in your movement, the certainty in your voice, and the clarity in your actions. Opportunities begin to appear not because you demanded attention, but because your presence signals that you are prepared to handle responsibility. Over time, this consistent energy becomes part of your identity, shaping how others perceive you and how you perceive yourself. Becoming the strongest version of yourself does not only require building new habits and new beliefs. It also requires removing everything that quietly weakens your confidence. Many people focus only on addition. They read more books, try new routines, and set ambitious goals. But they ignore the things in their lives that are slowly draining their energy and damaging their identity. Growth is not only about what you add, it is also about what you remove. If you continue holding on to the habits, environments, and relationships that pull you downward, your progress will always feel limited. Confidence is extremely sensitive to what you tolerate. Every thought you repeat, every habit you practice, and every person you surround yourself with sends signals to your mind about who you believe you are. If you repeatedly tolerate environments that make you feel small, your identity slowly adapts to that message. If you constantly engage in behaviors that contradict your goals, your mind begins to doubt your own words. Self-trust weakens when your actions repeatedly betray your intentions. The first place to examine is your internal dialogue. The way you speak to yourself when no one is listening shapes your emotional state more than any external factor. Many people are far harsher with themselves than they would ever be with another person. They replay past failures, criticize their own abilities, and remind themselves of every mistake they have made. Over time, this pattern becomes a mental habit. Your mind begins to expect failure because you have trained it to focus on weakness instead of growth. Cutting what weakens you means interrupting this destructive dialogue. When your mind begins repeating negative assumptions about yourself, pause and question the thought. Ask whether it reflects your current effort or simply echoes an old version of yourself. Replace the criticism with constructive direction. Speak to yourself as someone who is developing strength, not someone who is permanently defined by past mistakes. Your internal voice should guide improvement rather than destroy confidence. The next area to evaluate is the people around you. Human beings are deeply influenced by their social environment. The attitudes, beliefs, and emotional patterns of the people you spend time with gradually affect how you see the world. Some individuals encourage growth, challenge your thinking, and celebrate your progress. Others unintentionally drain your energy by focusing on negativity, doubt, or constant complaint. Neither group may intend harm, but the impact on your identity is very different. When you begin improving your life, certain relationships may become uncomfortable. Some people prefer the version of you that was less ambitious because it allows them to remain comfortable with their own choices. When you grow, your progress may quietly challenge the beliefs they hold about themselves. This tension does not mean you must remove every relationship from your life. It means you must become intentional about the level of influence each person has over your thinking. Protecting your mindset is not selfish. It is necessary for building the future you want. Habits are another powerful factor in shaping identity. Many habits seem small, yet they gradually influence how you see yourself. Repeatedly delaying important work teaches your mind that you cannot rely on your own discipline. Breaking promises to yourself weakens self-respect. Constantly filling your time with distractions trains your brain to avoid focus and responsibility. Each of these patterns chips away at confidence because they contradict the standards you want to live by. To change this pattern, you must perform an honest evaluation of your routines. Identify the behaviors that drain your energy or reinforce procrastination. Be willing to remove them completely rather than negotiating small compromises. When you eliminate a habit that weakens your discipline, you create space for a habit that strengthens it. Over time, these replacements rebuild trust between your intentions and your actions. Your physical environment also plays a role in reinforcing identity. A cluttered space often produces a cluttered mind. When your surroundings are chaotic, your attention becomes scattered and your motivation decreases. Creating an organized environment is not about perfection. It is about supporting clarity. When the spaces where you work and live reflect order and intention, your mind begins to mirror that structure. One of the most important shifts you can make is refusing to tolerate what contradicts your standards. Every time you allow something that weakens you to remain in your life, you send a message that your goals are negotiable. When you remove those influences, you send a different message. You remind yourself that the person you are becoming deserves an environment that supports growth. This process is rarely comfortable. Old habits resist change. Familiar environments pull you back, and excuses appear when discipline feels inconvenient. But courage grows when you consistently choose the stronger path instead of the easier one. Each time you remove something that drains your confidence, you strengthen the foundation of your identity. Eventually, the difference becomes visible. Your energy stabilizes because fewer distractions compete for your attention. Your decisions align more clearly with your values. Your confidence stops feeling fragile because the things that once weakened it no longer control your environment. By removing what erodes your strength, you create the conditions necessary for lasting growth. Confidence is no longer something you hope to feel. It becomes a natural result of the life you intentionally protect. Your life begins to change the moment you stop negotiating responsibility. As long as you continue explaining your situation through excuses, your power remains limited. Excuses feel safe because they protect the ego. They allow you to believe that circumstances, other people, or bad timing are the real reasons progress has not happened yet. But every excuse quietly weakens your identity. It tells your mind that your life is controlled by forces outside of you. And the moment you believe that, your motivation slowly disappears because you no longer feel responsible for shaping your own future. Ownership is the opposite of that mindset. Ownership means recognizing that while you cannot control every circumstance in your life, you are always responsible for how you respond to it. Strong individuals do not wait for perfect conditions to begin improving themselves. They accept the situation they are in and immediately start asking a different question. Instead of asking why something happened to them, they ask what they can do next. This shift in thinking moves you from a passive role in your life to an active one. The first step toward absolute responsibility is honest self-reflection. You must be willing to look at your current life without hiding behind comfortable explanations. Ask yourself where you have delayed action, where you have blamed others for problems you could have addressed, and where you have allowed fear to control your decisions. This kind of reflection can feel uncomfortable, but it is also extremely liberating. The moment you accept responsibility for your situation, you reclaim the ability to change it. Once you take ownership, every action becomes meaningful. The smallest decision begins to shape your identity. Waking up when you said you would wake up. Completing a task you promised yourself you would finish. And maintaining discipline, even when no one is watching, all reinforce the message that you are someone who can be trusted. Self-trust grows when your actions repeatedly match your commitments. And self-trust is one of the strongest forms of confidence you can develop. Progress does not require dramatic transformation overnight. It requires consistent improvement over time. Even a small step forward each day compounds into powerful results when repeated long enough. This principle is often described as the 1% rule. Improving just a little every day gradually builds momentum that becomes impossible to ignore. At first, the progress feels small, but the accumulated effect over months and years becomes extraordinary. However, responsibility is truly tested during moments of resistance. There will be days when you feel tired, discouraged, or tempted to stop pushing forward. These are the moments that separate intention from identity. Anyone can work hard when motivation is high. Anyone can stay disciplined when the process feels exciting. But the people who truly transform their lives are the ones who continue acting when their emotions tell them to stop. When the thought of quitting appears, your mind will begin offering reasons that sound reasonable. It may say you deserve a break, that the effort is too exhausting, or that waiting until tomorrow will make things easier. These thoughts are extremely persuasive because they promise relief from discomfort. But the moment you follow them, you reinforce the habit of retreating whenever progress becomes difficult. A powerful way to resist this pattern is by committing to what can be called the one more principle. When your mind urges you to stop, decide to do just one more step, one more minute of focus, one more repetition of effort, one more page of work, one more attempt at solving the problem in front of you. These small acts of persistence may appear insignificant, but they have a profound psychological effect. They teach your brain that discomfort is not a signal to quit. It is simply part of the process of growth. Each time you continue despite resistance, you strengthen your mental resilience. Your mind begins to recognize that you are capable of pushing beyond temporary fatigue. Over time, this pattern becomes automatic. Instead of avoiding difficulty, you start moving toward it because you understand that those moments are shaping the strongest version of yourself. Responsibility also requires emotional control. When obstacles appear, it is easy to react with frustration or discouragement. But reacting emotionally often leads to impulsive decisions that move you further away from your goals. Acting with intention allows you to stay aligned with the identity you are building. Rather than allowing circumstances to dictate your mood, you maintain focus on the direction you have chosen. The people who achieve meaningful progress in life share one powerful habit. They remain loyal to their future, even when the present moment feels uncomfortable. They understand that comfort is temporary, but the identity they are building will shape the rest of their lives. By continuing to act with responsibility and persistence, they prove to themselves that their goals are not just ideas, they are commitments. When you adopt this mindset, every challenge becomes an opportunity to strengthen your character. Difficult situations stop feeling like barriers and start feeling like training. Each time you refuse to surrender to excuses or fatigue, you reinforce the belief that you are capable of more than your previous limits suggested. Over time, your identity shifts in a powerful way. You no longer see yourself as someone waiting for the right moment to begin. You see yourself as the person who creates momentum through action. Responsibility stops feeling like a burden and becomes a source of freedom. Because when you truly own your life, you also own the power to shape where it goes next. The most difficult stage of growth is not the beginning when motivation is high. And it is not the end when success becomes visible. The most difficult stage is the middle, the quiet season where you are working consistently, yet the results remain invisible. This is the stage where most people lose faith. They begin questioning whether their effort matters. They look around and see others moving faster, receiving recognition, or achieving results sooner. Slowly, doubt appears, and the temptation to abandon the process grows stronger. But real transformation almost always happens beneath the surface, long before it becomes visible to anyone else. Just as roots grow underground before a tree rises above the soil, your identity is developing quietly, long before your results appear. Every disciplined decision, every focused hour, and every moment where you continue despite discomfort is shaping a stronger version of yourself. The progress may not be visible yet, but it is happening inside your habits, your thinking, and your character. Many people quit during this invisible season because the human mind naturally craves evidence. We want proof that our effort is working. We want quick results that reassure us we are moving in the right direction. When that evidence does not appear immediately, the mind begins searching for alternatives. People change their plans, abandon their goals, or constantly restart new strategies. The problem with this pattern is that progress requires time to compound. Every time you restart, you reset the momentum you were slowly building. Trusting the process means staying loyal to your path long enough for the results to catch up with your effort. It means understanding that the discipline you practice today may not produce visible rewards tomorrow, but it is still shaping the identity that will eventually create those rewards. Instead of measuring your progress only by external results, begin measuring the quality of your decisions. Ask yourself whether you showed up when you promised you would, whether you maintained focus when distractions appeared, and whether you continued acting even when your motivation was low. These invisible victories matter more than short bursts of visible success. Another powerful way to stay aligned during the invisible season is by protecting your vision. Your vision is more than a goal. It is a mental blueprint of the life you are building and the person you are becoming. Without a clear vision, your attention will drift toward whatever demands your energy in the moment. The world constantly presents distractions disguised as opportunities. New ideas, unexpected requests, and endless information compete for your focus. If your vision is not firmly established, these distractions slowly pull you away from your path. Locking into your vision requires clarity about three things. First, why your goal truly matters. This reason must be deeper than external recognition or temporary reward. It must connect to the person you want to become. Second, who you must become in order to achieve it. This includes the discipline, habits, and mindset that support your future. Third, what actions must be repeated consistently every day. When these elements are clear, your direction becomes stable even when challenges appear. However, even with a strong vision and consistent discipline, failure will still happen. No path toward growth is perfectly smooth. There will be mistakes, setbacks, and moments where your progress feels interrupted. Many people interpret these moments as signs that they are not capable enough or that their goal was unrealistic. But failure is not the opposite of progress. It is one of the ways progress happens. The difference between those who eventually succeed and those who stop trying is their response to falling. Some people fall once and decide the experience proves they should quit. Others fall, examine what went wrong, and stand back up with more awareness than before. Each time you rise after failure, your resilience grows stronger. Your mind begins learning that mistakes are temporary events rather than permanent definitions of who you are. One helpful approach when setbacks occur is to follow a simple reset process. First, reflect on the situation honestly. Identify what happened and what you can learn from it without exaggerating the failure. Then, allow yourself time to rest and recover so your perspective becomes clear again. Next, release unnecessary guilt or shame, because those emotions do not help you move forward. Finally, return to action as quickly as possible. Even if the step you take is small, movement restores momentum. Resilience is built through repetition. Each time you face difficulty and continue moving forward, your brain records the experience as proof that you are capable of recovery. Over time, this pattern becomes part of your identity. You stop fearing setbacks because you know they cannot permanently stop you. They simply become part of the training that strengthens your character. When you combine trust in the process with loyalty to your vision and the ability to rise after every fall, something powerful happens. Your progress becomes steady instead of fragile. You no longer depend on constant motivation or immediate success to keep moving forward. Instead, your identity carries you through uncertainty, difficulty, and delay. Eventually, the results you once waited for begin to appear. The habits you practiced quietly start producing visible outcomes. The resilience you developed through failure becomes one of your greatest strengths. And the person you become through this journey is far more powerful than the results themselves. Because the greatest achievement is not simply reaching a goal. It is becoming someone who refuses to stop growing, no matter how many times the path becomes difficult.